So today it is all about the Wallabies depth chart. Now I know it's the middle of Super Rugby Pacific. Every side has played 7 games, which is exactly half of the normal regular season, except for the Western Force, who have played 8. But this is the best time to capture them all within this right now, having played 7 games, which is half. And we're going to be looking at who are the strong players, who are the contenders, who are on the fringes, and who and why have I placed certain players where. I really want to hear from you guys, so let me know in the comments what you think. It'd be really good to hear what your opinions are on certain positions, and if we need utility versus versatility versus stability, you can let me know in the comments. I'll be down there with you. As always, please, guys, if you can, give me a subscribe and a like. It really helps me grow the channel, and it helps me bring more rugby content, to rugby lovers like you. Now, we're going to be going through, and I'm going to pick 3 starting 15s because that's the kind of depth that we're going to be going for. That's a total of 45 players. I'm going to omit some positions because you don't need 3 deep in, like, for example, wing or fullback, because you've got different players that can cover different positions. That's not realistic. For the Lions series, the Wallabies will be carrying about 33 players, if not a few more, maybe up towards 36. But nevertheless, this is going to be really important to get a gauge of who's performing and who's not. We don't really need to discuss specifics because the squad is still so far away from being announced, but we do need to have a look at who's performing, who's strong, and who's not doing that well, and who needs to continue to show form to be able to clinch that top spot. Then through all this, we're going to go through and talk about who are the key players, and at the end, we'll make a little bit of a summary of them all. But without further ado, let's go straight into the video. So one of the key things when you're looking at selecting a side, I think specifically now for the Wallabies, is that we do actually have a fair bit of depth in certain positions. So we don't need to be picking versatility in our starting 15, nor our match day 23. Of course, you might need a lock that can cover 6, but you really want to be picking players that are playing well in their chosen position. And I think this is really important when we get to left and right wing, but even more important when we get into things like loose head and tight head lock. So let's go. We'll whack up the first team. There it is. Take a quick look at it. I'll go through it one by one. You've got Bell, Fessler, Alatoa, the front row. Williams and Swain, the force partnership in the back, in the second row, and we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. Then we've got Valentini, Tizano, Wilson, White, Liner, Peach, Paisami, Ikitau, Daungunu, and Tom Wright. And if we start up front, I don't think it's undeniable that Angus Bell is the most damaging forward run in the Australian landscape. Marley Pearce at the Western Force is doing really well, but I think he's still a bit too green to be talking about in test circles. But nevertheless, he's going really good, great doors in the first half of the season. But nevertheless, Angus Bell is there and he's doing really well. Then we've got Matt Fessler. Even though he's had a couple of weeks off with injury, I think the trueness of his throw, his overall game and understanding of his job at the back of a maul still reigns supreme. Alan Alatoa has come such a long way since he ruptured that Achilles before the World Cup, which really ruined that for him. But he's made a great return. It's taken him some time, but he is carrying well, defending hard as always, great work rate, and scrummaging really well now as well, which is going to be really key as we head into this Reds clash this weekend. Nevertheless, we go into the second row, and that combination of Williams and Swain, you've got the work rate, the grunt, and also the ranginess of someone like Williams, who has played 6 before, and he does have a little bit of that loose running game in his game, as well as willing to take it up the guts and really go through sides. And Darcy Swain, his work at the line out is elite, and he could be and has been a Wallabies line-out caller, so he does have that in his repertoire. He's now older and he's gone west and he is performing, and his improvement is out of sight, really. You can't ignore his form. He's the biggest Wallabies bolter, and if you're picking on form from the second rowers at the moment, you're definitely picking Darcy Swain, whether it's a 4 or 5. Now, the distinguishment we've made here is that number 4 traditionally is the loose head lock. He's the one that sits behind the loose head prop, and then also really needs to be that kind of rangier, more mobile, more athletic version of the 2 locks. So he needs to be able to get to breakdowns, and he needs to really be able to be in those wider channels, helping out and supporting. Whereas the tight head lock needs to be the one that can dominate in the tight stuff, do the hard carries that no one really wants to do, and be a bit of enforcer. And Darcy Swain, his niggle and his ability to slow down opposition ruck ball and in the maul to be able to peel off players is actually the best in Australia right now out of everyone. And I encourage all young locks and all those coaches who are aspiring to train their second rowers to watch Darcy Swain, because his extra little work and details around the field is making a huge difference for Simon Cron and the Western Force. Moving on into the back row, you've got Valentini, Tizzano, and Wilson. I think the form of Tizzano and Wilson speaks for themselves. And I know before people shoot me, and I want to hear from you guys in the comments below as well about McWright not being the first pick, number 7. This whole thing, which we'll touch on in a little sec, is about form currently, and it really is. Tyler Tizzano's form is undeniable. He is awesome and he's going great. So that's why he's there. His carry meters are going really well. On the weekend, we saw his ability to be able to accelerate and support, much something that we've heralded Fraser McWright for a very long time, although he still has the wood over Tizzano in that field for sure. And then he's also tackle rate and work at the breakdown. It's just really, really, really good. Wilson speaks for himself. He's really growing into be able to pick the times that he carries, and he's doing it really well, as well as being a good leadership member for the Reds. And then I think, although Valentini hasn't been the best on form, his previous form, as well as the fact that he's the Johnny Orr medalist currently, it's undeniable. He's going to be there for the Lions, and that's all that we're really working our way towards. In the back line, you've got White and Liner. White is currently the most strategically fluent and kind of competent player out of the Nines. He's doing really well, and no one gets distance on their pass and can sight someone and give them width on the run like Nick White. And then you've got Liner, who's just in really good form. I think the difference between him and some other of the 5'8s is that he's really controlling the play extremely well, and that's what's giving him the edge in this selection criteria. That is what's vital at test level, and you need to be able to control your team because you've got the best of the best around you. You've got to be able to utilize them. It's not just about you. Heading into the centers, we've got a really, really settled and well kind of tested center pairing in Hunter Paisami and Len Ikitau. Paisami gives the punch in attack and defense and is also a good communicator, as well as Len Ikitau's form is just really, he's in a class of his own. Whether it's on the world stage, he's definitely up amongst the world-class 13s, and then in Australia, he's definitely alone up on his own level. Heading out into the wings, sorry, I skipped over number 11, but we'll do the wings together right there. You've got Dylan Peach. Now, he did come off on the weekend with an injury, but nonetheless, his scything runs, his physicality and pressure on the breakdown and the wide channels is something why his partner on the other wing, Filippo Danguno, is also picked. If you're going to pick a Wallabies backline that looks like this, you need punch, you need physicality, and you need abrasiveness somewhere in that backline if you're not getting it necessarily from the biggest centers in the world. Although Hunter Paisami and Len Ikitau are great defenders, you need to be looking at those wider channels to be able to turn over ball and put pressure on teams that are just going to go wide regularly. Both are extremely strong defenders, and that is why those two are there. They're lacking a little bit of genuine turn of pace and speed, and we'll get into that in a little bit later when we reveal the rest of the 15s. But nevertheless, you've got Tom Wright at the back, who, although he hasn't been perfect and been a bit more rocks and diamonds this year than he was last year, his attacking numbers are without a doubt and really impressive and the best of any of the 15s. You've got Matt Greeley there, but I don't think Matt Greeley is quite yet on the Australian Wallabies radar just yet. I still think that he's a bit green, and Tom Wright is holding that jersey firm. Now, let's head into the second 15. So I'm just going to speed through this one. Slipper, Paying, Amosa, Robertson, Frost, Smith, Hooper, McWright, Gleeson, McDermott, Donaldson, Jorgensen, Stewart, who the heck is at number 13, and then you got Kellaway and Suaalii. I think we'll go from the bottom up this time. So starting with Suaalii, I'm not saying that he's the second best 15 in Australia with this. All I'm saying is that he is by far one of the second best in a number of positions. So possibly 15, possibly 13, possibly 12. You've just got to be able to fit him in somewhere because he definitely is an asset that the Wallabies will need. And his size and his understanding of the game as it grows on will be something that they really need coming into a test series against the British and Irish Lions, which is what we're all focusing on. Now, this whole list of players so far have been picked on experience, have been picked on form, have been picked on predictable outcomes and combinations. And that's why I think that regardless whether Suaalii is picked there at 15 or somewhere, you got to put his name somewhere. And I've put it at 15 because there's not too many others putting up their hand at 15 currently. Then we've got Kellaway, who's really, really been solid. He's just maybe not been at the heights of a Filippo Daungunu or a Dylan Peach on either side of the ball, really, but nonetheless a really smart footballer who definitely will be in and around the Wallabies because he is such a tactical asset. He's like a Hugo Keenan. That's how I've described him before. He's really, really important to the overall tactics and attacking play of a side when it comes to being able to selecting when and when not to add yourself into the line, whether it's from fullback or wing. And at 13, there is literally no one who is putting their hand up at 13. And this is this is probably the biggest problem position for the Wallabies from a perspective of depth. Of course, you can put Suaalii there, you can put Hunter Paisami out there, you can put Filippo Daungunu out there. There are options, but we need to start looking at specialized players, and there is no one in the 13 jersey anywhere else that is Australian eligible that is putting up their hand. So that's a real worry. Then we're going to go up to number 12. Although I was a little bit reticent to put Stewart up there because I'm not quite sure that he is the answer nor capable of playing against the Lions in a 12 jersey to be able to make a big difference, especially if our backline is undersized. His form has been really undeniable. His ability to assist and Ben Donaldson at the Western Force, and also his improved attacking work with ball in hand has been noticeable. So I had to give him his clout and had to pay him his dues there. The next in the number 11 jersey is Jorgensen. Now I know we weren't going to mention injured players, but his form before his injury was so good that he was almost a penciled-in guaranteed starter for the Wallabies. He was electric, and I really, really hope that he can make a speedy recovery. The surgery is good, and that he's back towards the back end of Super Rugby Pacific and can play that first game against the not the Lions necessarily. I want him to be ready for the Fijian game on the 6th of July, I believe, and then after that to play the Lions, because that'll be an awesome experience for such a young, talented player. Going up next, you got Ben Donaldson. He's improving a lot. His game management, his confidence in his skill set, and his ability to stay in games and not shy away from the contest, really impressive. So good on you, Dono, for kicking on, and he has just been playing really good, and he's a deadly ball runner, the best in Australia out of any of the 10. So really good to see him going good. McDermott, second. There's questions about his leadership after the decisions that he made in Hamilton there against the Chiefs on Friday night. That was bizarre, really. But nonetheless, his skill set is undeniable, and it looks to be that he's improving when and when not to run and kick, etc. And that is a good balance that you want in a 9 coming on, especially in the second half off the bench, which was his role rather last year, very much so. We'll go through the pack quickly. Gleeson and McWright, their form stands for themselves. They could jump into the number 1 position if they continue to just impress. Especially for McWright, there's barely anything there between him and Tizano. We've just seen a lot better play and more consistent play from Tizano this Super Rugby Pacific season. So that's why he's there. Gleeson, likewise. Wilson's just been so important from a leadership perspective. So Gleeson just continues to chip away, and he'll be able to get in there despite the fact that he's going offshore. Likewise with his number 6 partner who's heading to Exeter, Tom Hooper. He has been so good. He just can't. He's not as good as leaping over Valentini, because he is, the John Eales medalist and current one of the best world-class players in Australia. But Tom Hooper has been going really well, and his aggression, abrasiveness, and ball carry, really, really impressive. Smith, you just have to look at what a tight headlock has to do. They have to hit rucks. They have to do the tough stuff. They have to carry well. And I think his defensive shape, which was something that Joe Smith, or defensive technique rather, tackle technique, was something that Joe Smith critiqued of him last year and maybe really counted against him during selection for the Wallabies last year. He's definitely working on that, something he needs to continue to improve in, but he's really, the raw numbers are doing him good, so he needs to continue working and go through that accordingly. Nick Frost, probably not the best start to a season for Nick Frost, but nonetheless, he is an extremely talented, athletic, and tall, above all, tall second rower, which is what we'll need against a Lions side, which will be a big, tall side, which will look to work the line out a lot, especially with someone like a line out general with it, Maro Toje guaranteed penciled into the starting side. Then the front row, Robinson, Pang, Amosa, and Slipper. All of their form undeniable. You can't say that anyone necessarily is usurping them, but as we get into the next list, I think you'll see where and how they fit in. So we'll go to the next list now. Whack that up there. Then you've got Hodgman, Pollard, and Tupou. So Hodgman, he is super close to being able to shift Slipper out of that second position. His scrummaging has been what's been really impressive, and we really do need that from our loose head props. So that's great. Love that. Pollard, he's also so close to shifting Brandon Pangamosa out of that second starting jersey. But Pollard just seems to be able to have consolidated his weight a little bit. He looks like a bit bulkier, and he's really still really fast and athletic, but he's just able to continue to grow on that physical side of the game. And then Tupou, you can't deny his power and his strength in the scrum. And sometimes, unfortunately, the scrum is all that's going to matter in the clutch moments in a really tight test series against the Lions. So it's going to be really important that he's on his game and that he continues to improve, because his form has been really lackluster. And you have to say that from the work rate, even into the scrum in these later into these later rounds of Super Rugby, he has been not impressive at all, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dan McKellar benches him for this test against the Chiefs, actually. So you really have to be looking into who else can step up, and that's where the problem when you run into the problem. Zane Nongor, I'm not overly convinced. Reece Van Neck, again, not entirely sure. And then around the rest of the Sifa Amoni played really well, but I don't think he's test material quite yet. And then you look around the rest of the country and you're like, well, the rest of them are not Australian eligible. So Jeffrey Tumunga Allen, Moley, etc. So yeah, front row depth, a little bit of a predicament there at the number 3, and we really do need some. You got Massimo DeLutis, which could be an option, but again, I think he's still a bit too young to go head to head against the Lions. Shifting into the second row, you've got Canham and Salakai Lotu, the Reds combo from the weekend that played the table-topping Chiefs. Not a bad locking combination to be able to have to go through for your third and fourth pick, etc. And I know you're not going to be picking 6 locks deep, but nonetheless, it is a great headache to have. Salakai Loto brings that bulk and weight and experience. Canham brings the ranginess and ability to play ball or rugby along with a Fraser McWright and Harry Wilson. So that's really exciting, and that might be a little bit of a tick in his box compared to other players, but nonetheless, we'll see. Into the rest of the back row, Uru, Reimer, De Crepney, each one of these players, Uru and De Crepney could jump into the second spot should the others drop form, and should any of the top 2 ahead of them drop form, and then they really play really well. Uru has been extremely exciting and likewise playing really well in the loose, as well as doing some of the tough stuff. And no one is a better brawler in Australian rugby right now than Nick Champion De Crepney, and I think he's the best to do it since Scott Fardy. Hands down, he is the biggest bruiser and brawler that Australia has seen since Scott Fardy. I'm doubling down on that. Let's go with that. In the backs, Gordon Lolosio, Joe Smith's preferred 9-10 combination from last year by far. Obviously, Gordon's been injured for most of the season except for round 1, and that is a real shame because the Waratahs could really use him. And I think, although he's on the list, even though he's injured, because I can't see Ryan Lonergan from the Brumbies or Isaac Fines, Lele Waso, Teddy Wilson from the Waratahs usurping him of that position. He is too experienced, he's got too much of a rounded game, and he's also the key starter from last year. So I don't see him being dethroned entirely, but nonetheless on form, he can't be above White and McDermott. Likewise with Lolosio, it's not that he's been playing terribly, and he's not getting usurped or kind of, overwritten by Debrasini, Meredith, Edmed, Crichton, but nonetheless, Donaldson and Liner have just had better form, and so we'll see this weekend when the Reds play Brumbies, who really steps up and takes the game by the scruff of the neck. And I do think it will be Lolosio, but he's just been having a little bit of a hard time getting into his rhythm after a disrupted start to the season with a concussion after that Fiji and Drua game in round 1 in Fiji. Now we'll do the wings together, because then you've got a couple of question marks there and a non-available. So there was left. Tristan Riley. Now, if someone is not going to be physical on the blindside wing, which is number 11, you want a little bit of a speedier, little bit of a more a player you can inject into the play where it's going to have an impact, whether it's via physicality or whether it's via speed. Tristan Riley has both. He's rapid and he's also really physical, as we saw on the weekend against Moana. So he is a player that is going to be really, really crucial for the Wallabies should injuries come into it, should a Dangunu, should a Peach become injured, because then all of a sudden you're looking at quite small and not very abrasive wingers in Jorgensen, in Kellaway, and Potter. Potter is a solid bloke, but by no means is he a tough, abrasive player like Peach, Dangunu, or Tristan Riley. So Tristan Riley is entering that conversation, and he would become the 17th Indigenous Australian to pull on the gold jersey, and I'm sure that would be a massive honour and win for him and his family. So I'm really liking the look of Riley. How much game time he gets over the couple of next weeks, a couple of rounds, next couple of weeks, we will see. But nonetheless, really exciting prospect. And then you've got Harry Potter on the other wing. His speed is something which I think a lot of people forget when he doesn't turn it on every weekend. But then all of a sudden he's in the clear and scores from 60 meters out because he's got that electrifying pace. Pace is something that Dangunu, Kellaway, and Peach actually all lack. It's something that Jorgensen has, and it's something like a Toole has, and also a Darby Lancaster. But I'd say that out of the speedsters, Jorgensen and Harry Potter are the toughest, the best football players, and they also just bring that sort of X-factor speed that is really important. We don't really need a third 15, so that becomes a little bit of because all of a sudden Kellaway can play fullback, Suaalii can play fullback, and I think that if you really need to, you could put Jorgensen there as well, and Harry Potter has played there as well in his career. So we do have options for fullback, and you're not going to need to pick that many players anyway, as we mentioned at the start. This is now without the third option 12 and 13 and the fullback as well as the second option 13. You've got 41 players, if I'm not mistaken, here, and I think that you cut 6 of those out. You probably don't need, you probably don't need 3 tight head props. You probably don't need 3 loose head props. You probably get Robinson in there to swing. You don't need 6 second rowers. You probably take 5 as well as a utility, although on utility I don't think that we should be aspiring right now to be talking about utility players as though they are better than players that are specifically playing their position. So that's a wrap on the Wallabies strength and depth chart halfway through the Super Rugby Pacific season. It's now round 8 done and dusted in the books, round 9 coming up, and take a look at the side. Let me know what you think. I definitely want to hear from you, and I want to know what you're thinking around combinations, best starting 15, 23 machinations. Do we play a 6-2 split bench? Do we play a 7-1? Do we play another combination? Who is on that spot for a game day? I want to hear all about it in the comments below. I'll be with you. And please, guys, as always, just remember, helps me if you guys give me a like and a subscribe. That helps me spread the word about rugby in general, but about Australian rugby, and it's just something I'm trying to grow because it's the game that we all love, watch, and become a part of the community in. So take a look. Let me know what you think. More videos coming out later in the week. Some more interviews coming up as well, which I'm really excited about as well. But until then, guys, take care, and I will see you for the round preview on Wednesday.